everyone. Welcome to the Space Inbetween Podcast. This is episode 13, Good Trouble and Biden's VP Pick. There's so much to talk about. I cannot wait to get started. I'm your co-host, Chantel, and I have along with me hubby and co-host, Kyrie. Say hey.
KG, what's up?
All right. And before we begin, I want to do a new thing. I want to just do countdown. We are in countdown mode, everybody. It is 90 days until the 2020 election.
There we go.
Just to kind of keep that in front of us, keep that energy going. It is counting down to game time. We are in the double digits, and I am excited about it. I know we're going to talk about that more when we start talking about Biden and his VP pick. And so I just want us to start doing the countdown, to count down the days. So before we get into the good stuff, it's just you and I tonight.
Yes.
It's nice and cozy. It's nice and cozy. Yes. Oh, that's sweet. Well, Cherie, our other partner in crime, and Lorenzo were called away to an important meeting tonight. So they had to pass, but we are holding down the fort. And I can't wait to get into tonight's discussion.
Absolutely. So how you doing, love? What's going on?
I am hanging in there. So as you know, Kyrie knows because he lives with me, but you guys don't know. I have been getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning by myself with the help of Alexa, of course, and going to the gym. But even first, before the gym, having some quiet time, which is really good. Like I get up, the house is quiet, right? And going to the gym because I'm trying to like get back to like working out on a regular basis, and our gym is open down the street. So I'm doing that, and it was hard, right? Because I find doing it in the morning better. I don't like waking up in the morning, but the morning is like the one time in the day where my time is my time.
Right.
And Kyrie, you are an evening guy.
I'm very much a
Nighthawk. So I just got to a point where I was like, I'm gonna have to like do it myself. You know, I need to like do what's right for me. And one of the things is like getting up consistently and just going.
Right.
So I have been doing that since Monday. Today is what? Wednesday? Gosh,
Wednesday.
It seems like it's been so long.
I don't remember.
It's only been 3 days. Oh my goodness.
It's COVID time, so it could be any day. And it's
my gosh. And it's been really good. I just say I'm successful if I get up, and if I make it to the gym, I don't even care what I do. I'm like not at the point of really caring what I do when I'm at the gym. I just like try to get there. So it's been good. And then I love the fact that like the first day Kyrie was so sweet because he was like, I'll go with you in the morning, and just to like that encouragement and camaraderie. So
I get it. It's hard. Getting up in the morning is not easy. As someone who has spent the last XYZ years getting up between 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning every day to go to work, it's really hard. To this day, it's still a chore.
It's really hard. And, you know, COVID is just, I mean, it's something has to change, because I'm like, I cannot wake up and roll out the bed basically like at 9 o'clock. And that's what was just happening, you guys. It's been awful. And I was like feeling so sluggish. So yeah, that's been.
I've been late to a couple of meetings because of that. I'm like, oh.
I mean, you know, you roll out of bed at like, it's 8:50. 57.
Roll downstairs real quick.
Roll downstairs and go downstairs. Exactly.
And I jump on like 5 minutes late, and I'm like, are you joining?
Right. I'm hiding my profile. Right. So that's been pretty cool. I hope my goal is just to like wake up. Like, and this morning I literally had to like throw one of my legs out the bed. Like it was harder this morning. And
that's
just
like,
throw myself out the bed. Just like almost like throw myself out so I would get up.
It's called the leg swing. You swing that leg over to the side and get momentum to get you up.
And I kicked you. I like
sure did. I was
my
like,
other leg, because that was like my nice, loving way of saying
you get up too.
Time to get up, right? So that's been really good. So, you know, that's been my thing. And I like all the benefits that I get with getting up in the morning. I think more so than like going to the gym, I just love how my day flows. Like, and the air told me that she loves that I get up and go to the gym. She was like, Mommy, I really like you. I think it's so good you're getting up and going to the gym. Like, good job. And I was like, thank you, Niera. Thank you. And she said, because your breakfasts have been really good and they've been on time.
Right, because we're not eating like at 10,
We're
11
not
o'clock in
eating
the
at
morning.
like 12
Or
o'clock
better
in the
yet, we're not
afternoon.
eating the daddy breakfasts.
Right. Or they're like, I don't have food. I haven't thought about it. Or go in the kitchen and see what you can create, kids. So it definitely has been an improvement in the food.
Honestly, I think the biggest issue is they just don't want me to make oatmeal.
No, they don't like your breakfast.
That's it. They love the cold oatmeal that I made this morning.
Yeah, they do like cold
Great.
oatmeal.
They loved it. They killed it. They ate it. They loved every single bit of it.
too.
But the regular oatmeal,
Their
they were funny this morning because they were like, yeah, we went to grandma's house. And we're like, Grandma, you don't have any cereal. And she said, yes, I do. And she said, no, you don't have any cereal. We're looking in the cupboard. There's no cereal here. And she's like, it's right there. And she's pointing to the oatmeal. So you're like, no, not that. We mean cereal. Oh, she meant, oh, you mean cold cereal.
Yes.
I said, kids, recognize when your grandma was born, there were no, I don't believe there were Frosted Flakes and Captain Crunch and all those other things.
They might have had like the I know my grandmother loved, like she always had her box of Wheaties.
I'm just saying, but I'm talking about in the 1930s.
Oh yeah.
And of course your grandma was just like the 1900s. You know what I'm saying? So I'm talking about for those folks that were in the 1930s. I don't remember when General Mills or whatever came around and started making this stuff. I'm just saying, I don't think that was like a normal staple in anyone's diet. You know,
I don't think so.
It's a staple in our diet. You know, I remember Life Cereal. Mikey, he likes it. You know, Tiger. You know, Tony the Tiger and all that other stuff with Frosted Flakes and the Snap Crackle Pop. You know, all that stuff is my childhood. But I don't think that was your mother's childhood. It was interesting. So we were having that conversation between cold cereal and cereal. And so long story short, they hate my oatmeal.
They do. And you know, growing up, we didn't have like a lot of cold cereal. Like when we did it, it was like how we do it. Like, hey, we're going on vacation. We don't want to cook. It's our vacation. We're gonna get cold cereal.
You lived how your mother lived.
Yeah. Like we just didn't have it. Like when we got Fruit Loops in the house or Apple Jacks, that was like, yes.
Now, see, that for me, that was normal. You know, Cocoa Crisp and Cocoa Pebbles and Count Chocolate. I think you get the
I had hot
all that stuff. That was a normal for me. So because I was a latchkey kid, so I had to get up in the morning by myself. I had to do it all by myself. You know, especially at a certain age.
Right.
And I had to make my own breakfast and walk myself to school and walk myself home and all that other stuff. So it was a whole different thing. So for me, cold cereal was breakfast.
Right.
The idea of eating oatmeal, I hated it. I didn't like oatmeal as a kid, and I didn't eat it up until you made it a certain way. And I was like, yo, this is dope.
That's how my mom makes it.
Yeah. But you have to make the oatmeal with the milk.
I make it with the milk. You don't make your oatmeal right. That's why the kids don't like your oatmeal. No. Oatmeal, let me tell you, Kyrie, stop. Oatmeal, you have to love the oatmeal pot. And you have to take it on slow. You are very impatient with your oatmeal. So when I make my oatmeal, I ignore it. Everybody, here's the oatmeal secret. First of all, my kids call it creamy, dreamy oatmeal. Okay. Mm-hmm. Leela said the other day, she says, because Leela just refuses. She's like, fine, I won't eat breakfast. She's just.
And I'm like, all right, fine, I don't care.
Mom, I put a spoon in my oatmeal that Dad made, and I lifted the spoon up, and all the oatmeal came out the bowl.
You know what? It was still edible.
I said, I know.
I ate mine.
What you have to do is my mom's secret is this. You all out there listening, you try it. You take old-fashioned oatmeal. Listen, I'm giving.
I know it is good. Recipe. Trust me, I've had it.
You take old-fashioned Quaker Oats oatmeal. You do not follow the instructions on the can, okay, that they have. You're not going to do that. You're going to measure out how much you need, and then you're going to put cold. It has to be cold, not lukewarm, not hot, but cold water, and you're going to let that cover the oats. And then you're going to gently, slowly on low, cook that and like simmer and stir, okay? And stir. And I add to that a little bit of cold milk. I don't add all milk. I add cold water and a little bit, like a splash or two of cold milk. And then I also add vanilla, cinnamon. We like a little cardamom in it. And you slow cook that one about, I have like a stove that has like numbers on the range. So like 1 to 2, very low. And you stir the pot. And it does a slow.
Yeah, I don't got patience for all that, Shani.
Kyrie doesn't have patience.
I don't have patience for all that. Now, the one thing I do have patience for, quite frankly, is that Jamaican porridge.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Yes, sir.
I've learned so many ways to make oatmeal because for the first, like, I don't know, like 8 years of Nia's life, it's all she would eat. So I know how to make it cold, hot, Jamaican, a smoothie, you know, so many different ways. So, well, you know, so I'm able to cook more in the mornings because I'm up and you're helping me. But how has it been for you? Like, are you, because I know you've done both. Like this morning, you went with me in the morning. So like, you know, how are your days? I guess I'm going to know, like, because we haven't talked about it, like, do you find that because you're up at early that your day is just flowing better for you? Or
again, somebody who's been doing this for a lot of years, in and of itself, the main difference is I'm not going anywhere. So from the standpoint that I'm getting a lot more done, I say, then yes, you know.
I mean, and you're not sleeping till 8:57.
Right, and I think that's the other big thing is I'm not sleeping literally until my.
Well, I mean, like you have a different type of preparedness that you have throughout your day, and you have a different type of presence in the morning, like, you know. So I think it's good. I say all that to say, you guys, I think he should continue getting up with me and going in the morning.
I'm not doing it every morning.
That's my case that I'm building.
I'm not doing it every morning. I'm just not doing it every morning. I'm gonna do it every other morning.
Okay.
I'm cool with
tomorrow you're not doing it.
Nah.
Okay.
No. I'm not. Tomorrow night I'm going and
That's cool. I'll go by myself.
That's cool. You'll be fine.
Go by myself.
You'll be fine.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Shake off the haters and all the players.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's cool. Like for me right now, it's just I think the thing I'm just trying to manage right now, and I try not to come back to it, but this case it is work. It's been nutso. So, you know, and right now it's just trying to find a good balance with the level of work right now.
Get up at 6.
So I'm doing that. I'm trying to find some balance, you know, so you get to see me. So when in between meetings, I get out the office and I come walk around, say, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah.
You've been doing a really good job with that.
Yeah, because it's just been a lot of meetings and a lot of Zoom calls and Teams calls and all that stuff. And it's just been a lot of stuff. Yeah. And there are other things that I really want to get back to. So, you know, obviously I'm trying to join this mentoring program.
Yeah.
And part of that is I have to actually do some training. I've been slipping on doing that training because I'm just so kind of burnt out with all this other stuff. I'm like, I'm not trying to be on anything, you know, on the computer, especially at training. Right. So I need to finish this training so that I can continue this process. So that's the big thing right now that I'm kind of kicking myself on a little bit, is trying to get back in the habit of doing this thing so that I can finish this process and move forward. Because I do want to continue. I do want to be a mentee. I actually am serious about that. So I know that the way I'm feeling right now is because I really am serious about it. So what I know is I'm going to do a little extra, and I'm going to have to, you know, push a little extra, especially in the evenings, to get through the training so that I can get it done. Because I don't want them to.
Yeah. Or you can wake up at 6 a.m. and then you have like an hour where you can just relax into your training.
I'm not that person.
That's also a possibility.
I'm not the person that gets up early in the morning to do work. That's actually the worst time for me. I do work at night. Like I'm the most productive in the evening time than I am in the morning time. Morning time, I'm just like, yo, what is this place? Yo, who are you? What are these three little things keep touching me, asking me, calling me daddy? I'm like, I'm not your daddy. It's like, I'm just joking. Jokes, funny style. Anyway, the comedy stylings of KG. No. Anyway, so,
Oh,
and
your
I just
children
want
here.
my vein, that sweet black nectar, directly IV'd into my veins. I'm just trying to wake up. So the idea of doing work early in the morning does not work for me. I am a night owl. So, that's the thing. That's my sweet spot. So that's what I need to do. Just get into my sweet spot and do what I need to do. Finish the process strong and make sure that because there's other things that I want to do with this program. So I got to talk to my boy because, he texted me. He was like, yo, I heard you were talking about XYZ, trying to start XYZ, let's talk. And I do want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So it's that
balance is good.
Balance. Right now,
balance is
little
good.
lopsided. So I'm just trying to get back in balance. That's it.
Well, we could talk about this all day because balance is something that we're always trying to do, right? It's always a struggle, but we're making strides. We'll be able to check back in with that and see how things are going. Like, it'll be really interesting if I'm still getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning by next week. That will be interesting.
Consistency.
Hopefully it will be the case. But what I'm excited to get into is our talk tonight about John Lewis and his homegoing celebration. And just the legacy that he left us, and namely his call to action. So did you have a chance to, because I know you were working, did you have a chance to watch any of it? Of the celebrations? The John Lewis,
the funeral procession, the funeral service.
The funeral when he.
I watched most of it. I mean, it was during the day when I was working, so it's like in between meetings or a meeting I didn't care about, I was watching.
I
mean, it's like, how could I not?
This
was this is a giant. This is one of the freedom riders. This is one of the founders of SNCC. This is one of the one of the people that got beat during Bloody Sunday. This is one of the giants. So it's kind of like, how can you not watch this funeral service? So it was definitely a blessing to see that. Obviously, somebody that's, I'm not gonna call myself a political wonk. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying that somebody that follows politics in some respects. The thing with the joke between him and Elijah Cummings, because they look alike. They have like the similar features. So it's kind of like, is that Elijah Cummings or John Lewis? It was the little joke anyway. But it was a blessing to watch that. It was great to listen to the speakers and to get the different perspectives of his life and his legacy. And as you said, all the call to actions, that were brought out from that. And I think that I don't care if you're Black, white, Asian, Latino, Latinx, whatever you are, those call to actions apply to you, period, the end. And I think especially coming into this coming up presidential election and senatorial and congressional election for many areas, this is big. This is probably one of the most consequential elections in a very long time. This election will be probably remembered not in the same way, but will have the same type of air that the 2000 elections did with Bush and Gore. Where there's going to be some controversy that comes out of it. It's going to be mostly manufactured. Actually, it's probably going to be all manufactured in terms of controversy. But the fact is, there's going to be something that's going to be said. And regardless of the result, it's either going to be one of those things where it goes down in infamy or it goes down as a turning point. We don't know. So we're going to be told 90 days. 90
days and probably then some. But
and then some.
Yeah, I think that first I so loved the coverage that was done.
Mm-hmm.
So it was covered from beginning to end. And I really liked that, that media outlets, I mean, I don't know all of them. I was watching MSNBC News, so I can say that media outlet gave time and space and just aired it all, like
Mm-hmm.
uninterrupted. And so I just think that it was just so honoring, of him and of his life. And it allowed, I think, for those who paid attention or those who tuned in, to be educated, So there's things that we hear about a person, or we can recognize a person's face, like our kids, because, his face, they've seen him on TV, they've heard his voice. So when we shared with them that he passed, they were like, oh, that man, they have some recognition
There's
of
a
him, but
recognition. There's a
right. But it
it's
was
triggered something.
really nice. Like whenever you attend someone's, homegoing celebration,
Right.
you always learn so much more about them than because oftentimes you have interacted with a part of a person, you know what I'm saying? Or, a perspective. If it's somebody that on your job, that side of that person. Or even as a family member, them maybe as family member, but you may not know like all the other things that they are into, or that they've done, or the lives that they've impacted. So I think that I really was just, I appreciated the education. I appreciated being educated. I loved when he was laid at state, and how Nancy Pelosi chose to have his words speak. And I loved like that decision and hearing his words, which were so powerful, about getting into good trouble, and hearing him explain that concept. And at his funeral, I thought that they did a great job mixing, the notable people in the room, the presidents and those just notable honorary people, with family, and with people that could speak to him like the family stories, and that they honored both. So I thought that was done. I thought it was really well done.
So let me ask a question.
Mhm.
Can you describe a little bit about the good trouble?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that in my words, I think that there is, we think of trouble as being bad, right? Because it has this negative connotation. And one of the things that his mother would say, as most parents tell their kids, especially, hey, don't go out and get in trouble, right? And trouble, is something that you want to avoid. However, there are times in life where actually you have to engage what is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And because what is wrong, and this is just my words, y'all, because what is wrong, right? What is wrong from a legal perspective, what is wrong from a societal norm perspective, or when there is wrong thinking, unfairness, injustice, whenever you have those things and they're standard, right? So from the standard acceptable, they're actually kind of then maybe on the side of good, because it's normal, it's
Right.
standard, it's acceptable, like slavery was. And so what he's saying is, when you go to disrupt that, right? When you go to protest against it, when you go to engage that, that's when you're getting in trouble, but that's good trouble, right? That's honorable trouble,
Fighting on the
because
side
you're
of
actually
justice
on the
is good
right
trouble.
side of it. You see what I'm saying? And it's necessary. So the second part to that is good trouble, necessary trouble. So it's not only like his call of saying, hey, we have to inconvenience ourselves, no matter who we are, no matter where we are, no matter how we find ourselves, no matter our station or situation. When you see something that is wrong, when you see people treated unjustly, you need to risk getting in trouble, right? And know that that's good trouble, and that your effort and actions are needed and necessary to make change happen, to be a change agent, to be in that continual line of change. And I loved how, he was so honoring, and he was so always very deliberate to speak to where he came in the link, like who came before him. He said that, if you guys haven't had a chance to read it, I'll leave it in the show link below, but his obituary, his op-ed piece, his final piece that he wanted published in the New York Times when he died. And he said that when he was 15 years old, Emmett Till was 14 and murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, such a calling action for him. And then he heard Martin Luther King speak, Martin Luther King Jr. speak about protest and nonviolence and all of those things. And so for him, he grabbed onto it, a coattail, and he was following this line. You see what I'm saying? He was one in a line, and he left a line for us to do our part. So to me, that's what that good trouble, necessary trouble is about. And it is very moving. It was very moving. And I was just really inspired. It was just such an inspiring celebration, and it was so honoring of him and his legacy and his family, and also his staff as well, that I learned, like, that's, again, you learn so many things. He had a pretty consistent staff. He did not have a lot of turnover, which says a lot. And one of the consistent things that people said about him was that he was just very kind. He was a kind-hearted, gentle man. So,
a bit of a joker.
And a bit of a joker, and lots of all these things. So it was really good. And again, I don't, I'm not in agreement with how the news covers everything, but I do think that they did a great job with just making time and space and letting the tape roll and not letting it be interrupted. So that was really good.
Yeah, and I think it was just also as salient when he, in his last tour, riddled with cancer, and walked out to be with the protesters, with the Black Lives Matter movement, and just to say, listen, I just got to see with my own eyes, knowing the risk to his health, knowing his health as it was, just to see what was going on, to say, okay, I'm good. I'm done. The torch has been rightfully and successfully passed. That even if there were protesters that didn't even know his name, that had no idea who John Lewis was or the contributions to their freedoms, let alone his own growing up during that period of time, that it was still in the right hands, that it was still with the youth. This man was 15 years old. I think he met Rosa Parks when she was 17. He met Martin Luther King when he was 18. And these are some foundational things, these things that, shaped this man coming out of that Emmett Till, generation, I would call it, of the civil rights movement. Our generation coming out of, I would say, in some respect, the Rodney King, beatings movement. And this is not just George Floyd, but being the spark for these current levels of protests out of this George Floyd kind of era, and as we still fight for justice for Breonna Taylor. So, and so many others. And
so many others. And I
so
think that
it was very poignant just to see him walk amongst them, and to take that in. I mean, I remember it like when, Obama was first elected, right? And Jesse Jackson, even though he had some choice words for Obama, leading up into the election, he was sitting there crying, not because it wasn't fake, it was legitimate. Like, I see something that I've never thought I'd see. I never thought I'd live to see. And what that means from a generation that, and unfortunately in some cases by younger generations, is mocked and said, oh, I'm not my ancestors. Don't disrespect your ancestors like that. Don't respect those people that came before
Right.
you that fought to be where you are right now. But, to see these things come to play, in a lifetime, from Emmett Till to, to today. So to see John Lewis just step and walk out with like that was like, a lion, at the end of his days, walking
Exactly.
his area for one last time just to say, okay, it's in good hands.
And I think that John Lewis, one of the things that he held in front of us, and he tried to hold in front of us, is that this democracy is not guaranteed,
That's
that
right.
it can be lost. And I think that that's one of the things that he, along with others, but in particular, he was very vocal about that. And in fact, he wrote, and I'm quoting him now, "Voting and participating in the democratic process are key. The vote is the most powerful nonviolent change agent you have in a democratic society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed. You can lose it. Marching, speaking, deliberating, educating, persuading. These are some of the actions that help make democracy real. They're also the tools we'll need to defend democracy against the looming threat of autocracy."
Yeah, even like I was reading those great speeches, and I was like, and I was reading that book about the great speeches, and I was looking at Benjamin Franklin's paper, and his whole thing was like he was against the Constitution not because of what it was trying to do, but what it really hadn't done.
Right.
And the fact was, he was just like, "Yo, this thing is not even imperfect. It's not there."
Right.
And he was like, "This." He said, "But you know what? So be it. This democracy as it is will last until the people, fall for and rally around a despotic rule."
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
And so we are very much in some ways, kind of putting some of those words, historical words from some of the founding fathers to, what you said with John Lewis, we're putting that to the test.
Yeah. And I like how, I think that, don't hold me to it. But I was trying to sit and think back and remember, we've been through times where our country has protested. Like you mentioned, Rodney King, there was protests. But it seems like since Trump's been elected, people have become some professional protesters. It's all the time, all over the world, for different, different things that either ramp it up or kind of slow it down. And I think that and especially with Black Lives Matter and with George Floyd and just the global response and the global community of uprise, I just think that seeing it on that level, and I was happy that he was able to see it on that level, because I don't think it's been on that level,
not for a single cause.
Yeah, not exactly. And so I just think that, that thing of how, we actually can affect change. You know what I'm saying? And I think that many of us feel like we can't, or those stories of where people gathered and protested and stood and sat and did whatever, those days are gone, but they're not. We can impact change.
Yeah.
And I also loved how I never thought about the act of voting as a non-violent protest. So I loved how John Lewis was like, voting, when you vote, no matter how you choose to vote, when you actually vote, that is a form of protest. It is a non-violent form of protest. And I never thought about it like that. I knew it was your right, and I know we should, but I never thought about it like that. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think it also belies the dangers that are out there, and the rallying of the rulers, if you want to call it, that are really going to fight hard to retain control, that are going to throw out these dog whistles, that's going to throw out this language of division, is going to throw out a lot of things like defunding, the post office,
Right.
things of this nature to stay in power, to stay in rule, right? And even some countries in Africa, I think Zimbabwe, I think it was, where they're cracking down on protesters like pretty significantly and seriously. The Black Lives Matter movement in those countries, because again, it may be, this is in Africa, so we're talking Africans, that all more or less look like, but we're talking about the Black Lives Matter movement in respect to police brutality.
Exactly.
And that, unfortunately, is universal. That's any country you go to, there's some form of it. And I don't care who you are, if you are in the have-not section of that area, you are getting brutalized in many ways by the system and the police structures that are there to enforce it. So, and then, so those countries where you're seeing that crackdown, and even in this country, when you look at Seattle or some of those other places where you have unmarked, federal people literally pulling people off the street, like we're, communist China or, or North Korea or something. And as much as we like to say, oh, we're not them, but we're getting there, and we're getting there. And you have a section of the country that is rallying and right behind that. So you're having those people that are rallying around despots are rallying together and advocating and approving of these actions, which are completely anti-American,
right?
And completely anti-democratic.
Right.
So the act of voting, yes, is the one act as an American that is a silent protest regardless of who you support, right? So whether you support on one side or support the other, at least it's the one place where everybody's voice does count. And there's this old diatribes, oh, my vote doesn't matter. Oh, da, da, da. I was like, it doesn't matter when you don't vote. You're absolutely correct. When you don't vote, it doesn't matter. It's not going to do anything. You literally don't count.
Right.
You contributed nothing in terms of the conversation in the direction of the country. I mean, when you look at the people who vote versus don't vote, more people don't vote than vote, and they get mad about the results. It's like, well, for those people that were mad that Trump won, yeah, but there was 100 million of you that didn't vote.
Did not vote.
So
hopefully that will be
what
different.
are you? So how are you? I don't know if it was 100 million, but I know it was a lot.
It was a lot.
There were more people that didn't vote than actually did. Took children out of the equation, obviously.
And some of them did it.
That is the thing that we have to be very careful about, is these narratives about what counts and what doesn't count. So these moves that are being made to quelch your democratic right to vote, whether that is nationalizing the election day, or whether it is defunding the post office, or it's complaining about whether it's a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot, which is the exact same thing. But the point is, that's the kind of stuff we as Americans have to truly, specifically Americans, I can't talk about in Zimbabwe and I can't talk about anywhere else, but in America, we specifically need to fight against that.
And I think that we've seen that. Like columnist Jamal Bowie, who's an opinion columnist, wrote, while many of our institutions have not been up to the task of confronting Trump, our democracy, meaning individuals and communities and civil society, has. Protests put Trump on the defensive in the days after he took office. It drew attention to his abuses at the border, and the protests over the last 3 months have helped galvanize millions of others to be more against him. And if Trump is defeated, and if he actually does leave office, it will be because Americans stood up and took seriously the idea of democracy as a way of living as much as it is a form of government. It will be Americans, not institutions. That is it. And
well, in a way,
that it would be Americans.
I only challenge that in one respect. Okay. The institution actually will prevent them from doing it, because, and I say that from this standpoint, because constitutionally, by that was it 21st or 20th of January, if
Mhm.
there's not a new government installed, a duly elected government installed, Nancy Pelosi becomes president. Sorry, that's the
Yeah.
Constitution. And the only way that changes is through an act of Congress. And Congress is not changing it.
Yeah.
So that's the game. It's he will be out no matter what. If he loses and he decides I'm not going to leave, fine. January 20th, he's out no matter what.
Yeah.
And then because the only way he can actually stay in power is if the military or something else came back, rallied around and said, forget the Constitution, forget the American civil liberties, forget any of that. Matter of fact, forget my oath as a military person. I'm just going to go around this king and decide to stand up for him. Maybe that's the only way he can be stay in office, but outside of that, that's it, regardless of what he wants. If a newly government is not established on election day or by the 20th of January or whatever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, which is why I think there's a lot of effort for him to let's not even get to that point. Let's
That's
just
right.
delay the vote. Let's not
Squash
have
the
the
vote.
vote. Let's squash the vote. Well, there were at the funeral. John Lewis did a call of action, which is to get involved, no matter who you are, where you are, and to vote. Like vote, vote, vote. And at the funeral, Obama's eulogy, which if you haven't watched it, watch it. You can probably find it everywhere. The New York Times also has the transcript and the video. So that's another place that you can find it, and we'll leave it in the show notes below. But it was so good. It was so good. And in his speech, he did something that we haven't really heard him do a lot, like very specifically. I think towards the end, he really engaged a call to action. Trump was like, it was inappropriate. This part of his speech. Yes, because it was like campaigning at a funeral, which is, but anyways, what I wanted to do was just like talk about his specific calls. So John Lewis gave like a big call, like a siren call, vote and get engaged. And I think that Obama followed up his call with like, here are some specific things that really need to be addressed and changed as it relates to voting. If we want to continue to really pursue this idea of democracy, you know what I'm saying, which is still so fragile. And so the first is making sure every American is automatically registered to vote, including former inmates who've earned their second chance.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one because, I mean, that is very much state driven. I know Governor Northam in Virginia was very much, attacked for his reinstating rights to ex-felons, that come out the system and have served their time and done whatever they're supposed to do. So, because there might be a small portion of the population that shouldn't have gotten their right to vote back and were. Even in Florida, I know you were not automatically given your rights back, and I know you have to go in front of a judge. And basically, depending on the makeup of that judge in that county, they can just say no.
Yep.
And they don't even need a reason. There's no right to have your rights restored. It's just, we don't want you person to have your right back, so we're going to say no.
Yeah.
So, so it's state by state, and unfortunately, it's disparate. And let's understand something else. As African Americans, we're a third of African Americans either have, and brown people have either in or have been incarcerated in the system. It's very difficult depending on what state you live, to get your rights restored as an African American in certain communities because of these state by state laws, especially in a lot of these red states.
I think that this is such a time that we're living in there's such momentum that this would be a good time to really push to have that changed, because for all the reasons that you stated. And then I'm sure that there's even more, and I think of like, when you think of functioning as a full citizen and you can't have a right to vote, like your right to have a say-so or influence, or for your voice to be heard is taken away, you're not functioning as a full citizen. And I do think that it definitely, works to the advantages of people. Like it's strategic. And so I do think that I agree with President Obama that that's something that has to be changed. And I really like
And there's a couple of things
how
you
he
got to worry
emphasized
about.
automatically registered too.
Is that the automatically registered stuff like that? The fact is that we still have a thing called states' rights, and because those things really do exist, and depending on the makeup of the Supreme Court, et cetera, even if federally, Congress, whatever, made a law stating that, every person of legal age is automatically registered, right? That there would be a fight, especially coming from the red states. The government would be sued. It would go up to the Supreme Court, and depending on the makeup of the Supreme Court, it'll either be upheld or it'll be retracted because of the fact of the argument of states' rights, and probably some other things too, but primarily, I'm sure, states' rights. So that would be a massive fight, especially, let's say, on the conservative side, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that it is a fight that happens in the states, but I think that, like so many things, once certain states start adopting stuff, it's easier to get, like going a little whirl with that. But
yeah, sometimes
it's a good.
Lord knows. Think about Martin Luther King Day.
Exactly. Or
I don't think it was until the 90s before every state in the union had,
adopted it,
celebrating Martin Luther King Day as a national holiday. I think Arizona was like one of the last ones.
Okay, so next one, these are like, yes, this is so, when I heard him say that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so basic. Why are we even talking about this? So next specific point, and I loved he was very specific. We need to add more polling places, expand early voting, and make election day a national holiday. Like, why isn't it a national holiday? It's ridiculous.
States' rights.
So Again, I understand what you're saying with states' rights, but states have adopted things too,
I'm not saying what I'm saying is state by state. Like Virginia has adopted the Virginia has adopted Election Day as a national holiday, but Maryland hasn't.
Right. So I think that the push, it's like, here are some things I think that, and these things start locally, right?
Sure.
When you start making noise locally in your state, because we all live in states or DC or Puerto Rico, territories. But if you start making noise in your state, that's where you put the pressure on. So I don't think that he was speaking I think he was speaking to we the people, you know what I'm saying? And how we the people can, put pressure on our representatives to demand for things. And
I agree. I agree. So I think the thing that has to be understood is that, we do, have a voice. And I think the fact is we understand that the reason why a lot of these things don't happen is because the fact is of the makeup politically of, some of these states, right? And so there has to be an understanding that because, especially in some of these states, the ones that are most negatively affected are those of people of color.
Right.
That's the reason why nobody has any. We can scream and yell and holler and hoop and holler all day. And that's nice, but it doesn't serve our needs, so why do it?
Right. And I think that there is that thought process, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I also think that process what I'm saying is I think that the thought process of we can do all these things and it doesn't matter.
Oh, I didn't say that.
Okay.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. What are you saying?
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is the arguments against it, we know right now, drawn down by political ideology, right? And the fact that if they feel that people of color are going to disproportionately vote Democratic than Republican. What I'm saying is in the actual, in the institution itself within that state, they're going to do everything they can because of the way the power is controlled to ignore it, because they don't want to even have that conversation, yet alone have to take up any type of referendum unless they're actually forced to, which
Right.
is another piece of the puzzle here in terms of getting these things on a referendum to be voted upon, right, by the people. But some of these states have laws specifically that actually very much tailor to their whim, especially down on political lines, that'll prevent some of these things from happening. So it really is a bit by piece, effort to get into the certain political spheres and structures, which is happening in many cases, so that you can change some of the ideology and makeup of these political structures so that you can then make some of those changes. Because as they stand in some of these states, it's almost impossible to even get it heard. I don't care how many people you have in your state, yet alone to get it changed until some of that structure's changed. That's all I'm saying.
No, and I agree with that. And I think that that's kind of what, John Lewis is talking about when he's saying good trouble. And I think that that's kind of the essence of what he was speaking to, like regular people, like his life is so extraordinary, like so many others before him, in the sense that he's like, I'm a regular person. But I'm a regular person who now, like the nation stopped and we're celebrating this man's life and talking about him on a podcast. He's not regular today. You see what I'm saying? But when he started, and when he forced, as you said, change has to be forced. When he put his effort into making force within what he could do and making that good trouble, it was along with other people's forces. It actually led to change, not immediately, not overnight, but like eventually. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree.
That is, I think the inspiring thing about it. That you're right. Power. People in power and people in positions, they don't want to give up their power. Nope. They don't want to give up their positions, and they're only going to give it up when they're forced to. And so being active, showing up, getting a part, like whatever that looks like for individuals and your families and your sphere of influence, like that momentum or the collective energy behind that, I think collectively helps to force hands and to force conversations and to force change.
Yeah, I agree.
Also with representation, Obama's, I think, third point was that every American citizen should have equal representation, including those who live in DC, Washington, DC, and Puerto Rico. They are Americans, end point. And this has been a fight. We live right on the border of DC and lived in DC ourselves, and has a mom who's born and raised in DC, and Sheree lives in DC. So we are very much aware and impacted, or just like very much aware, I would say, of how DC does not have equal representation. And it has been something that they've been fighting for, or people, I would say, Washingtonians have been fighting for a long time, and hasn't come to pass. And it's probably true for Puerto Rico, although.
Puerto Rico's a little bit different in the sense that as a territory, there's certain rights they have on their own because they're not a state, but they enjoy some of the benefits of being a U.S. territory in itself. And there are, quite frankly, quite a few Puerto Ricans on the island that have zero desire to be American, to be a state.
Yeah.
So there's opposition. There's proponents and there are opponents on the same island in terms of this whole thing about becoming a state. So it's not even a settled decision within Puerto Rico. Whereas now DC's a little different because you're in the continental United States. You are right here at the seat of power, and you are literally not almost a full citizen because you literally don't have any representation. You don't have a senator. I mean, we had a baseball team back in here, up until like the 60s, all the Washington Senators, because joke, we don't have senators.
We don't have a senator.
So, and you have an honorary congressperson, Eleanor Holmes Norton. Yeah, but you're under the rule of whatever basically Trump or any president says, because you're under home rule.
Right.
So yeah, there's you have one of the richest areas right now, because the average income is gone from probably $50,000 a year to now probably like over $150,000 a year per person in DC, because of the migration into the city. And that has sparked a different debate. Now, again, you got to get all 50 states on board. You've got some states, but then you got the red states are like, oh no, what? No. DC will just be another blue state. So no, we don't want that. So there again, it's a fight. They're fighting hard too. They're fighting very hard. I think it's called
Trouble. Keep
DC
the force
51.
going.
I think it's the name of the organization that's been really fighting very hard to get that on the radar, and to get finally something passed to allow DC to become the 51st state.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to transition from this topic, because we have our second topic of the evening. But the main point of this, I think the main call is find a place, find a topic, find something, a space, find an issue, an opportunity where you can get in good trouble, necessary trouble. Like, what is that looking for in your life? That's just a question I think that we can keep in front of us as honoring John Lewis and all those who have gone before him. But our second topic is about the 2020 election. I'm so excited. And then sometimes I'm not. I get very excited because like politics and all this stuff is like entertainment for me. But then I get very, very sad. Like, yay, election season. It's so exciting. And it's so different because like my conventions aren't happening. It's so much I'm missing. I'm confused with what's going on with the social media stuff that they're trying to do. I guess we're going to have a virtual convention.
Yep.
Just like the energy is like a little
supposed
low.
To be in Wisconsin, but kind of like as an apology because Hillary didn't campaign.
Right. Exactly. So, but we are like soon to be getting who Biden is going to pick for his VP. So I want to play a little, I'm going to call it a game, even though it's not a game, but like games make everything fun. So we'll call it a game. And so what we're going to do, we're going to first say who we think Biden should pick and why. Okay. And I think on his short list, we have, who's on his short list?
Kamala Harris, Susan Rice, Elizabeth Warren, what's her name? Karen Bass, and Tammy Duckworth.
Yes. Yep. Those are kind of like those that are still standing.
I have got to drive through from all heck.
We're first going to talk about who we think he's going to pick, and then we're going to just share who we want him to pick. Then we're going to share who we think he'll pick, because it might be different. Okay? I'm going to let you go first. Who do you want Biden to pick?
I think the person that I had in mind, especially when that person became a consideration, was Susan Rice. Mm-hmm. I think she is a phenomenal individual. She knows the government in and out. I think if something were to happen to Biden, she could take over day one. I mean,
Right.
no doubt. I mean, technically, anybody is supposed to be able to take over day one if you're a VP, but
And we would be better
and
probably with
very,
more time. Yeah.
she would definitely be able to take over day one. The only thing that would happen, which you say is a knock against her, but quite frankly, in this environment, who cares? Is it Benghazi?
Mm-hmm.
Because she was wrapped up in that particular thing where they said it was a protest and it was really a terrorist attack. But
Right.
with that being said, I like, all right, and keep going, whatever, sort of riles up your base. It's not gonna, nobody else is gonna care.
Mm-hmm.
And I would personally love to see her because she's not gonna take any of their mess. Not
No.
at all. And she's gonna be a good, she'll be able to do a lot of the things that Joe won't be able to do.
Yeah.
And she'll
Yeah.
be able to attack certain things that Joe won't be able to attack because he has to stand off differently. And she will be able to defend intelligently a lot of things that Joe can do intelligently, but he has to take a different tack towards. And I think from a foreign policy standpoint, she will have a different insight and ability to get back some respect that has been sorely lost, abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Susan, Susan is also my pick for all the reasons that you named. I think that when I think about like Joe Biden, he's a beloved senator, like but foreign policy also mattered to him. And but for me personally, I think that it is, who do I feel as though is really ready on day one? And we say that, right? Like in other candidates, like in elections, we're like, yes, they need to be ready to be able to stand in day one. But this is a little different because Joe, I don't think is going to be a two-cycle president. I don't think he's like trying to do that. And I really do think that on day one, whoever he picks, it's like, that's your next president, or that's the president, the person that really needs to be able to step in, should something unexpected happen where, they needed to step in before the term was finished. And I feel like she would be able to step in, take charge, and lead us in a right direction. And so I love her show of strength. I love her. She has a great, just personality. She's been through things. She's been a little, beat up. So I don't think that she scares easily. And, she has a good track record. I think that people focus on certain things. And yes, I agree with you. Benghazi is probably the blemish spot that will be picked at. But, hey, I don't think that should deter him from picking her as a running mate. So we're both on the same, like Susan Rice. Okay, who do we think he is actually going to pick?
Honestly, it's still Susan Rice for me, but it's a toss-up.
You got to choose one, babe. You got to choose one.
Well, it's toss-up between her or I think Kamala Harris.
So if he's down to those two, who is he picking?
I don't know. I'm just gonna say Susan. I'm gonna call it a day. Say Susan. I mean, honestly, there are so many pros and cons that are kind of equal in some respects.
Yeah.
On both sides. I mean, Kamala is no holds barred. She's smart.
Yeah.
She is very versed in this government thing.
She's also a senator.
She is new. I mean, she came in 2016 too. But the point was, she's been around this block enough times that, in respect to this current environment, she knows it very well, and she knows these players very well. Mm-hmm. The only dark horse in this one, I would say, would be say Karen Bass, who is, I think, the head of the Black Caucus. the
Right.
Black Caucus, and she is very well liked, by her colleagues and her peers.
Mhm.
Um, and she has a very strong track record
Yeah.
from that standpoint. And she's from Georgia. I think she's Georgia. From Georgia. I, she's my dark horse, I would say, out of
Right.
I think whoever's going to be, it is going to be a Black woman.
Right.
I think he would shoot himself in the foot, in the buttocks, and in the head.
Oh.
Didn't
Yes.
do that.
Yes.
Because I can see why you would choose someone like Elizabeth Warren, but I wouldn't do it.
Right. Yeah. I think that he is going to pick. I also do agree. I think it's a very tough decision. I think it's great and awesome that he has a tough decision with female candidates across racial lines, because it just shows the number of qualified women that are up for the job.
That were always there.
And so I think that it's a good problem to have, right?
That's right.
I have so many, right, that I'm actually having to choose. And ultimately, I'm going to say I'm not going to be angry or hugely disappointed with any of them. I mean,
any of them are good for me.
And especially, with any of them. But I would say that it is a tough decision. And I think that he is going to, Joe Biden seems to me like he just seems like a good father, a good, a protector and a carer. And I think that it would matter to him. I think it would really matter to him, and he would take it very seriously, like a almost like a burden responsibility seriously, right? To make sure that whoever he picks as his vice president is able to do the job and not have to be trained on a job. I just think that that would matter to him a little bit more deeply. And because of that, I think he's going to go with Susan Rice.
Yeah, I'll push back a little bit. I think he would try to go for a second term. I don't think there's anything that says he wouldn't try to go for a second term. Yeah, he'll be old. So what? I think as long as he feels he can do it health-wise, I think he'll do it. Mm-hmm. And so I think part of his calculation will be who would challenge him,
right,
in 24. So he may go with somebody that says is loyal enough that they will stick around, through 28, so that he could, finish doing whatever it is he's going to do. Right. I don't think he's trying to be a one-term president. I don't think anybody would ever. I don't think anybody really wants to be a one-term president. Right. I think and honestly, if it wasn't for some of the legal trouble, I think Trump probably would want to be a one-term president. But I think he's fighting on for dear life because he doesn't want to see life outside of the presidency.
Exactly. The other thing you make a point to, the other reason why I think Susan Rice is because, and it kind of ties to the point that you're making, I think that he wants space to be president. Mm-hmm. And I think that like an Elizabeth Warren, a Kamala Harris, I think that if, maybe they are more into their agenda or campaign, or you know what I'm saying? Or vying for position.
Well, that'd be Elizabeth, sure.
And I also would say it would be Kamala too. So, I mean, she had the ambition and she ran for presidency. I mean, Elizabeth has done it longer, so maybe her ambition is just more, but it's there for Harris as well, I think. Absolutely. So exciting. I hope we get the answers next week. Hopefully, Biden campaign, if you're listening, anybody, before Wednesday of next week, so we can see.
Yeah, for real.
Like if we got it right. What am I going to get? Well, we both chose the same thing for both of them, so I guess there's no like, we have to like celebrate or do something.
Well,
like,
high five.
I can say what Cherie would choose because I did ask her. She thinks that he's going to go with Kamala Harris, and he's going to put Susan Rice in charge of State Department. Okay. And so we have We have her on there.
I'm down for that.
Everybody in the comments below, just shoot out. Who do you think? Who do you think is going to be the VP pick for Biden? Share in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts. And we will all see like if we were right or not. But anybody, this ticket, Biden's ticket, is better than the other side's ticket. I can say that most definitely. Yes, definitely. So we have a lot to look forward to next week. I can't wait. But before we close tonight, Kyrie, it's been lovely hanging out with you.
As always.
It has. Before we close tonight, we are doing something new. We're calling it our honorable mention, where we recognize people around the globe who are just doing awesome things. So our honorable mention tonight is, drum roll, NBA legend Micahel Jordan and his Jordan brand, because on June 5th, it was announced that they are going to donate $2.5 million to combat Black voter suppression, which is awesome. They are joining a larger campaign, a larger $100 million campaign that they're trying to build over 10 years to impact the fight against systematic racism. And so his $2.5 million is going to be donated the following way. He's going to give $1 million to the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Funds, and another $1 million to formerly incarcerated and convicted people and families movement. And then the remaining $500,000 to Black Voters Matter to support the practices and changes and reforming those practices and changes that drive change in the Black community. So we just want to give a shout out to Micahel Jordan, to the Jordan brand for making that donation and helping to fight systemic racism in the way he can. See, he is causing good trouble. So we thank you for that. And if you are not familiar with those organizations and you're like, okay, I've listened to this, Chantel and Kyrie, they have provoked me to cause some good trouble, and you don't know where to start. We're going to leave the links to these organizations below. They all have local chapters. So pretty much probably where you live, they have a chapter that you can get involved in so you can begin to cause some good trouble. So again, that's the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund, LDF, and formerly incarcerated and convicted people and families movement, FICPFM. It's a lot of letters there. And again, we'll leave that in the show comments below. And also, Black Voters Matter. So yes, check out those things. So, and also, since it's about Micahel Jordan too, even though this is a little different, Kyrie, you would say, if you haven't watched the doco series on Netflix.
Oh, The Last Stand?
The Last Stand? Check that out. It is about Micahel Jordan, right? His career. So
yeah, he doesn't talk very much about that stuff. So the fact that, even though it's from his perspective in many ways, the fact that he allowed that to happen at all was significant. But I think he's at that point in his life where he's like, okay, I need to set the record straight.
That's right. He's causing good trouble in all areas. So that's what we want to be like. He's our honorable mention tonight. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Well, guys, listen, so much. It's been so fun hanging out with my husband, Kyrie, and all of you who are listening today and who tuned in. If this is your first time, welcome to the fam. If this is not, then we just love having you back. Thank you so much for listening. We don't want to lose you, so be sure, if you have not already subscribed to this channel, please do so. Like, before you do anything else, like, just take a moment, hit that subscription button. You can find us wherever you find your podcast, on Spotify or Podbean. That's where I find podcasts. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Space Inbetween. In-between is one word, not two words, but one word, The Space Inbetween Podcast. And so in the space, we talk about real life issues. If there is something that you want us to discuss, you need us to discuss, please send us a comment, let us know, and we will try to make that happen for you. And we are new, guys. This is episode 13, so we're still growing, and we need your help to grow, get the word out. So if you could please share this podcast with your family and your friends, and give us a 5-star rating. That would be so appreciative. We would really appreciate all the help that you can give. And again, if you have to have
hit that like button.
Oh, yeah, the like button. Yes, the like button. We have to hit the like button. So all the things, subscribe, the bell, the like, all the things. You guys know what to do. And if you have to have it, you know, that book or article that we mentioned, I know we mentioned quite a few things during this show. No worries. We're going to leave links in the comment section below, so you don't have to go searching for it. We're just going to give it to you. So last but not least, we want to wish you a good night. And in the words of the late and great John Lewis, be kind, be mindful, be informed, stay engaged, and please, if able, vote. Until next time, you guys.
Next time.
We out.